guys again. I'm so excited to have you here. I haven't introduced myself. I'm Candice Whittaker. I'm the Executive Director of GAR and extremely, extremely grateful to be in this position. GAR has held a very, very special place in my heart for a very, very long time. I've met some of my best friends throughout this organization, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. And part of why GAR is so important to me is because we currently have over 3,000 beds in the state of Georgia that are certified. So I'm sure most of you are a part of that. That's amazing. 104, as of this morning, 104 certified programs. I know. I wonder how many are uncertified. You probably know of a couple in your neighborhood that are operating in the shadows, in the dark, with no type of oversight, flop house, putting people's lives at risk, and killing people. And that's why this is so important to me, because I can't continue to stand by and watch that happen. And also, I want to make sure that you guys are all provided the resources you need to run safe, ethical houses. And congratulations to you all, because you all came forward and asked to do this. And that's a huge accomplishment. So currently in the Capitol, I know we've been talking about this. Look, if you've been a member for GAR, you know how many times Charmin and everybody else were like, it's coming, the mandate is coming, it's coming. We are closer than ever. And I hope by early next year, it will be in effect. At the moment, we are meeting with the commissioner and several other senators to discuss the verbiage, because that's extremely important. And we are sitting at that table to make sure that you all are protected as well, because it is coming. And who do you want to be the ones to come out and tell you what to do? Is it going to be GAR that has members who know and understand and are part of what you do, or the government who may send somebody who's just going to lay down some laws here and there? Because we already have issues with things like zoning. What a nightmare, right? And so we need to start changing that narrative and have conversations of what that looks like. And that's what we're hoping to do. So when that mandate comes in, you guys are good. I don't know what our inbox is going to look like the next morning, because the hope is if you don't get GAR certified, you're not going to operate. And then we'll have the ability to push forward and make sure those places that are operating in your neighborhood that is not safe, that we can actually do something to shut them down. Right now, there's not much we can do except say, well, we're not going to certify them. Now we'll actually have the state backing us and an opportunity to change that, which I think is extremely important. So today I'm going to drone on a little bit about some best practices stuff, okay? Because there is going to be a little bit of a change to your standards of what your GAR requirement is going to be. Don't freak out. It's just HR files. That's it. It's really not that big of a deal. But we also want to hear what you would like to see. Is there something that you think is missing from standards that you would like to see? When you guys fill out that JOT form, at the bottom it says any suggestions or recommendations. You can slot it in there. My business cards should be in the center of all of your tables. Please grab one, send me an email, send me a text message, and let me know what you think, because I would love to hear from you. I work for the board and for you guys, and I want to hear and know what it is that you guys need support with, okay? All right, so any questions before I get started? Okay, you'll find me running around. I have a little bit of tunnel vision this morning, so that's how I am during these things. I haven't slept. I've had too much caffeine. I'm just trying to make sure that everything's good. So we have LaShonda and Joan in the background. Wave. They are super, super helpers. They are here to help with anything that you guys need, and they can shoot me an email, or if you have any questions, you can approach them. Some of you know Joan because you sent her some documentation to review. So that's the woman that's been reading all your documentation. So, all right. All right, best practices for recovery residence owners in Georgia. How do I do? Do I just tell you next slide? How does this work? Okay, next slide. I didn't know if there was like a button or something fancy. Okay. Oh, I also want to thank City Station. What an absolute honor it is. Parking was easy. The building is fantastic. There's coffee all day. There's food. This is wonderful. Very excited. It's hard to find venues, I will tell you that. So very grateful for City Station for all of their help. All right, here we go. I'm a little nervous, so in case you guys don't know, I don't like being the center here, so just bear with me, okay? I did my jumping jacks in the lobby. I shouldn't shake, but we'll see how it goes. All right, but you guys are friends, so that makes it so much better. All right, so today's agenda, we're gonna go staffing and employment practices, risk management, emergency planning, crisis management protocols, documentation, and incident reports. Next slide. All right, staffing and employment practices. We do this thing where we need somebody immediately, right? And we get somebody who's got some time sober and we're like, come on down, let's do this. Sometimes it's your alumni and we're just like, okay, let's go. Probably never looked at their driver's license, to be honest. You probably know about their background because they've told you. And that's about it, right? So it's important that we discuss what that looks like when it comes to the best practices. Because what will happen when the state shows up is we need to be able to open up our bonnets and say, hey, we do have everything ready to go and we are staying on top of these things. So a lot of treatment centers already are required to do this. I know some of them don't, but they have some requirements when it comes to DCS coming and Joint Commission coming. So we're just making sure we're aligning ourselves a little bit better with that to make sure we're all on the same page, okay? And just know I will post all the slides from today on the website, so don't panic. All right, so background checks. Whatever comes out on someone's background, it is really up to you as the business owner of how you're going to go with that and what you're going to do. I encourage you to do background checks. It is important, but be mindful of what somebody's background entails, right? I understand we work in an industry where we all have very colorful backgrounds, and that's okay. And be mindful of what and when someone has something on their background and the responsibility that you're giving them. So just pay attention to that, okay? The biggest thing that I will say that Georgia is harping on is elderly abuse, especially when it comes to fraud. That was a huge topic last year. We couldn't even get like up front in front of people because they were just totally focused on all the fraud that was happening with in elderly living, assisted living places. So they are very, very, very particular about that. Sometimes they put more emphasis on that than most other charges. So be very mindful about, okay, if you have somebody that has some type of financial fraud on their background, how much how much access do they have to money? And just pay attention to that, okay? All right, job descriptions. This is so important. Clearly define and outline roles, expectations, and boundaries in writing and include crisis protocols. So I understand that you wear a lot of different hats when you're an employee. I know when I was working as a counselor, one day I was a plumber. The next day I was what's the people that fix holes in the walls? What are those, sheetrock. I was a professional sheetrocker. I was, there's so many things that I had to handle. And so be very clear about what you're expecting someone to do, because they're also allowed to say, well, that's not in my job description. And you can't get mad because it's not in their job description. But we want to make sure that we're clearly defining what those roles look like and what they're doing, right? So that when you do, hopefully, you do a review, you can pull out their job description and say, oh, you did all of these things and it's great. And what also helps with that is just like when we have a resident and we have to discharge them, how much better is it going into that conversation when you have a piece of paper that they signed that says, hey, you said you were going to do this and you didn't do this. So now we have to discharge you. Here are some resources. Versus, well, I mean, kind of, sort of, against the rules, really, I mean. So it's a different conversation. The same happens with employees, right? And employees can be one of the greatest assets to your company or one of the worst nightmares you've ever experienced for your business. And we've run into that. A lot of the times when we get ethic calls, a lot of the times it's a former disgruntled employee. So making sure that you have something that's foolproof. So if we show up and say, hey, Susie said that you made her, clean shit off the floor, and she said no, and you fired her. Like, we can have a conversation of what that looks like. I'm sorry if there's a Susie in here, that's just the name that came to my head. All right, orientation on onboarding. New hires should receive training on CFR 42, Narcan training, CPR, and emergency protocols at minimum. Every employee should have a copy of your PMP, and they should sign a piece of paper saying that they received a copy of their PMP. It's really important. I guarantee some employees and staff members have never seen the PNP in their lives. And also, and I will say this until my last breath, your PNP should not be in a dusty binder that sits somewhere in the corner of your office that nobody looks at until we show up. You should continuously be pulling this up. This is the heart of your organization, and it should change. If we come back in 2 years and you say, well, nothing's changed, I'm like, well, really? Are you sure? Because Kratom wasn't really that much of a big deal, and now it is. What are your Kratom policies? What does that look like? MAT, are you now allowing Suboxone or Methadone, or have you not done that? Okay? So just make sure you're constantly pulling that up and training it. What I would love to see happen, and what I would recommend, is every single quarter or month or whatever, you have a staff meeting, you pull out a little bit about the PNP, and you just go through and you review it together so that everybody's on the same page, and you make adjustments on a yearly basis, okay? That's dream world. I understand that that doesn't work for everybody. I totally get it. I love PNP. I know not everybody does, but I just want to be sure. Another thing, if you have ChatGPT do your PNP, read it. Because Joan and I know what the ChatGPT thing is saying, and you know what it says? That you are under DCS and DBHDD, okay? That's not good. That will come back and bite you. So pay attention to what you're doing. I understand. Look, I get it. I totally understand. I know there is one PNP that the first 2 lines I read, I'm like, I know where you got this. So, and I know it gets passed around, and that's fine. It's fine. I get it. But read, because if we had one PNP in this room right now, it would not apply to everybody. I should be able to look at your PNP and say, I know what your program, how it's run. I know what you do. It's individual. Here it is. Here's all of the things. So please, please, please actually read through your PNP. It's really, really important. I can't stress that enough, because it could be the difference between when you're standing in court, that what some line could save you a lot of money or your program. All right. Sorry, I gotta check on time. I didn't wear my watch today. Okay. Policy review. There we go. We already went through. Ongoing performance reviews should be done as a part of the ongoing process. Check for burnout. Continue to reinforce ethical boundaries. Great. Next slide, please. All right. Your staff files. This isn't required right now, but it will be. So I recommend that you start doing this, okay? Well, some of it, not all of it. Signed offer letter, okay? You've offered somebody a job, you're willing to pay them this much money, they should probably sign that and say that they accept it, okay? Job description we talked about, background checks and credentials. Are they credentialed to do what they're saying they're doing? Signed acknowledgement of your PNP. The NAR Code of Ethics is on the NAR website. Every single one of your staff members should have that signed and in their folder right now. I don't care if your folder is electronic or if it's paper. It doesn't matter, but just make sure that's in there. Resident rights and responsibilities. This gets missed all the time, but you have to tell your employees what your resident rights are. They need to know what that is. A copy of their ID, really important. An emergency contact. Look, I know you know this person. You know, they've been with you. They're an alumni. It's great. It's wonderful. Yada, yada, yada. If an emergency happens and you have to call somebody, they should let you know who they want you to call. and you should have that readily available. So I know that some people don't even think about that, but like, sometimes it's like, well, Joe was married to Susie, and so I just assume I'll always show Susie. Oh, the time's right there. Fantastic. Thank you. And then they get divorced, and you still have Susie's number. Well, now who do you call? Okay? Things change. You should know. A drug screen. Again, pretty important. Okay, next slide. Preparing for the unexpected, emergency preparedness and response plans. Okay, fire safety and evacuation plans. You should probably do fire drills with your residents. You should have a designated place, because if something goes down and you guys are all standing or you're all spread out, half of them are going to jump in their car and drive away. So you need to know, hey, meet here, and then we'll have a conversation about what happens next. Check your fire detectors and check your extinguishers. And also know with a grease fire, you need the white fire extinguisher, not the red. So highly recommend you have both. And make sure they're full, because most of the time what happens is we show up and the residents decided to all stand in the bathroom and shoot off the fire extinguisher so they can suck all the oxygen out, and haha, it was so funny, and then it's empty. So make sure you pay attention to it. Or they use it and they don't tell you. I mean, I've done that. I set something off in my parents' house one time, and I used the fire extinguisher and shoved it back underneath, and everything was fine until my mom needed it, and it was not good. Severe weather and natural disasters. Emergency protocols for severe weather should be created. So I have this really fancy, ridiculously complicated spreadsheet that tells you the percentage of emergency here in the state of Georgia. Hurricanes is number one. I can't remember the percentage. So make sure you guys are prepared for hurricane. Okay, I'll tell you a funny story. Hopefully it's funny. I had a resident, we were about to have a really, really bad hurricane. I can't remember which one it was. And we were like, hey, fill up the tub and yada, yada, yada. I walked into the resident's apartment, and there was a bunch of kitty litter and kitty litter boxes. And I was like, okay, you guys aren't allowed to have a cat. What's going on here? And she was like, well, in case the toilets don't work, we'll just use the kitty litter. Look, genius, but not good, right? We can't do that, right? So make sure you understand, like, severe weather, what's going to happen, where are you going to go, where's the shelter, if a tornado comes through, where are you going to be? It's important for you to know that, okay? So you should have protocols, and they should be written down so that you can hand those out, or you can pin them up in your apartments. Medical crisis and overdoses. So all staff should complete an annual Narcan training. We do a free Narcan training every single month during our recovery residence workshop. Toward the end, Georgia Overdose hops on, and they do a quick little training, and then we send you a virtual card that is good for a year. Okay? We're doing 1 year Narcans because things are changing, and when you hear from Georgia Overdose later, you'll learn that there's now something that you can't even Narcan for, which I didn't even know until Nurse Andy got on and told me. And I was like, oh, that's good to know. So things are constantly changing. So make sure you're aware of that. Also, when you have Narcan in your apartment, it should be available to residents. Don't hold on to your Narcan like you can't get any more, because we will get you all the Narcan you need. Promise. Number 2, you should put something on it so that if somebody uses it, you know, and you should inspect it. We did have an issue where there was an overdose. The owner went to go grab the box of Narcan, and it was empty because another resident had used it before and just stuffed it back in the box to make it look like it had never been opened. Okay, so make sure there's duct tape, it's in a Ziploc bag, it's in something that they have to break in order to open, and you'll see it. I would love if everybody is checking their Narcan, as much as possible, but, totally understand. So, okay, next slide. Crisis management protocols. Create clear protocols for when to call mobile crisis units, 911, or transport to emergency care. Pretty self-explanatory. Resident conflict and behavioral issues. Implement behavioral contracts or house agreements. Have a tiered system for managing rule violations, verbal warning, written warning, dismissal procedure, et cetera, et cetera. Really, really going to help you. In case you have something go down with a resident, you should have a file on that. And if you have discharged them, there should be some type of discharge protocol. Hey, it went well. we told them all of these things. It was great. They signed this piece of paper. We signed this piece of paper. It was awesome. And then, move on. And then if something happens, it makes the discharge a lot easier. Again, in case someone comes and looks under your bonnet, you can clearly say, look, hey, we went through what we said we were going to do. And this is our discharge protocol, because you should have one. And on there, this is how we do things. Okay. And then also include, like, if somebody uses on site or endangers staff or other residents, that you have the right to discharge somebody immediately. Like, make sure that you do have that in there. I totally understand that things happen, right? And we need to be able to discharge somebody immediately. Make sure you have it written in there that you are allowed to do that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, good. Legal protection. If a resident or employee files a lawsuit or complaint, your records become evidence that policies were followed and appropriate action was taken. Extremely important. Literally, we've seen it. Some of you probably know about it, some of you don't, but there have been several different recovery residences that have been taken to court, and because they didn't have something written in their P&P, it cost them millions of dollars, and they no longer exist. Insurance claims. We have an awesome insurance presenter coming up later, and he's going to do a way better job than I would ever do explaining insurance. It's not my forte, but you need to have insurance. And I know that everybody doesn't budget for that at the beginning, but that's extremely important. Insurance carriers often require detailed incident reports to process claims for injuries, property damage, or liability. I can speak on this, absolutely. We had an apartment burned down, and I had to write an extensive incident report to send over to Lee. So make sure you're doing that. Regulatory compliance, that's part of your GAR certification, right? Staying compliant. Internal risk management, review incident trends, overdoses, staff turnover, and it helps you improve staff policies over time. I know outcomes can be kind of boring, but I will tell you one person who was really good at this, Brett Bagley over at Purple. He would have these spreadsheets, and he would be able to tell you down to the dollar how many residents he would need, how much money he would need to bring in to be completely set. And he would know, he would follow trends, and he would say, hey, we're about to go into a slow month. Hey, let's bring things up a little bit. So he's not just throwing marketing money all the time. He was able to say, now it's going to be a little bit slower month, let's adjust. So it's good for your business, but you have to do outcomes anyway. So really important that you do that. All right, next slide. Okay. Incident reports. So we are going to be making the incident reports a bit more detailed and a bit easier for you to understand online. I know it's been something that we've slowly been working on and getting a lot better at, so keep updated. I'm hoping to have the new one up very shortly. But there will be multiple different incident reports. So there'll be an overdose, there'll be a medical emergency, there'll be a mental health crisis or suicide attempts, resident altercations or threats, property damage or hazard, and staff misconduct or boundary violations, because these all kind of go into different ones. And like for an overdose or whatever, or a medical emergency, when you called 911, that doesn't necessarily apply to everything else. So I don't want to put extra boxes that you're like, well, I don't know what to do with this. You're going to be able to go in and click in which one you want, and it'll help you fill it out completely, and then it'll create the complete version that you can copy and keep a hold of. So you'll be able to utilize that. So we're working on that. So it should include the time, date, and location, the names of the involved parties and witnesses, factual description of what occurred, actions taken. You should tell, hey, I called 911 at this time specifically. That should be on there. And then a signature of all the staff members reporting. Extremely important. If it's not signed, it doesn't count. All right, next slide. Oh, wow, that was way quicker than anticipated. Okay, hold on. Okay, let me go through and make sure that I talked about everything. Okay, so like I said, working on the mandate, a couple things will change, not a whole lot for you guys. You guys are all set, you guys are doing everything, and we'll continue to train and make sure that you're aware of everything. We have recently moved to a 501c3, which is fantastic. We've operated on a $0 budget since I've been a part of this, so now that we actually hopefully have some financial backing, we will be able to help support you guys in the best way possible. And part of that, we're going to go through and do multiple different things and discuss like what that's going to look like. And I would like to get more fantastic trainers and be able to provide trainings to you guys for free. Like, how cool would it be if Heather Hayes came here and did a crisis, a de-escalation training? Like, to have Heather Hayes would be awesome, or somebody like that. So if anybody knows her, please ask her. So lots of different opportunities and things, but we are constantly evolving, constantly want your opinion on what you need help with, what is going on in your area. We now awesomely have a law enforcement liaison, and part of that is to help improve our relationship with law enforcement so that it's not just like, you know, they're sending to just Thor programs or whatever the case is. We have a great relationship with Thor, but Thor doesn't control all the judges and PO officers, right? So I just did a double entendre. So we want to make sure that we're going into your counties. They know who we are. We come to your city hall meetings. We have these conversations. We help support you. So if you would like me or anybody else on the board to show up to a meeting that you just want to inform of what you're doing and everything like that, please let us know. We'd be happy to help. We want to partner with you and start coming into the communities and really pushing this forward. I feel like for a long time, we have done our best to be ethical, but also there was this fear, and we kind of stay back in the shadows and do what we do as well as we can out of fear that there's going to be this like not in my neighborhood conversation. But you have our backing, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we change that narrative. And that's something we're going to do all together. So it's really, really important that we do that. Okay. So if you have any questions, hunt me down. Like I said, I still probably have tunnel vision. I should probably eat something. So shoot me a text message, shoot me an email, speak to Joan or LaShonda, let me know, and we'd be happy to help you. And I'm going to bring up Bark, who is our presenting sponsor for today. And then after that, I have an exciting announcement of another training that we will be providing. All right, thank you guys so much.